All right. Oh, so yeah, allergy season, it is. It's worse than just what a good way to start. So first of all, thank you so much for being so patient. Things have been absolutely insane over here. I've been holding off on yours, not for so long, but I wanna do one for someone who's an astrologer who has um that knowledge. I like to make sure that I'm in that right, well, I'm always in the right mode, but you know what I mean. So I'm going to share, wait, actually, no, I didn't hide the name. Okay, so I have to go, no, I have to turn camera, stop video, share screen. All right, so what do I have here? Well, 29-degree Capricorn sun. Wow. Um, and a 29-degree Scorpio rising. Wow. Moon conjunct Mercury in Aquarius. That's interesting. Okay. Nodal axis is Aries Libra and then 12-6 conjunct Uranus. So right off the bat, um, when I see this, let's see this. When I see this, I instantly I think of Uranus as a trauma signature in this case. Um, in the sense that your North Node's conjunct Chiron, also different signs, but still um that you definitely have this past life tendency that's quite magical in the sense that you have it within you to really stand out, and to really take that kind of Uranian road, um, the path, the road less traveled per se. And with Jupiter there also, there's just this like really deep kind of esoteric expansion. Now, why do I call it a trauma signature? Because Uranus represents that part of us that isn't always seen by society as acceptable. And on the south node opposite the north node, right, it signifies, especially in the 12th, someone who has that within themselves, to kind of strive to be different, right? And they come in this lifetime, or is it, and the Chiron is in Pisces, yeah. So with Libra, Aries, obviously that's the axis of relationships. But the vibe I get is like unrealized dreams. In the sense of, you know, kind of one's spiritual wings kind of clipped off. Um, not being able to just kind of go and be that person. So it had to be done in the dark, in the shadows, the 12th house, right? And Libra, obviously, very relational, doesn't want to shake the boat. And, to have a North Node in Aries, it is, ultimately very, one second. So, there's the energy, of, the need to kind of, in this lifetime, bring forth this potentially unrealized, mystical power. I mean, you have freaking Neptune rising in point energy Scorpio. So it's like, and Mars there too, junk power of fortune. So it's like you have so many powers, mystical powers. And I just feel like I get the sense that there's just these unrealized dreams, right? Like an image that could come to my head could be something like the witch who had to fear being persecuted, and because of that, sort of had to hide what she, her powers and all the things that she was truly interested in. And 12th house, it could definitely speak to, it is in Libra, right? So it's very interesting, and we'll talk about kind of how these kind of both go together, but just how in the Pluto 11th house, yeah. So I know it'd be 10th in classes, but I'm a whole signer. Just how, groups. Well, okay. So first of all, how it wouldn't surprise me if in past lives there was kind of this, or the karma you're dealing with, this potential for having been isolated, um, potentially even ostracized, and having to do a lot of, what really interested you in the dark, in the shadows, right? Um, and because it's in the 12th house, was hidden, it wasn't able to be put to practical use. And, there's a need to kind of push the kind of, Libra South nodes. I often think of individuals who had to sacrifice their goals, and their true kind of, Aries represents that real independence of, that real independent self, um and obviously in the 6th house in Virgo, it's about service, it's about, the steps. So it's like the first theme I'm getting is like unrealized dreams, um where in this life you can take all of that, kind of all of those powers, right? All those inherited powers, and, um, truly apply them, and truly feel this independence, right? Um, this independence and this ability to act, right? So it's interesting. I always say this is I always know we're dealing with an advanced soul when the North Node is in an element that isn't supported by any of the personal planets, right? Because you don't have any other fire. So the Libra South Node, right? There can be, that potential to acquiesce to others' demands, like putting one's true desire for individuation and individualization, I don't even know which word is correct, aside for the sake of relationships, or for the sake of not rocking the boat. And then when I see 11th house Pluto, I think of just it brings me back to conditioning, right? And to like the deep need in this lifetime to really judge like a group of people, friends, different groups that you'd be a part of, your causes, all that stuff, based on how much or how little they take you away from that conditioning, right? So it's really like this radical shift away from the karmic past, because it's really about liberating oneself from conditioning. And with that, there's this like very powerful need to kind of detach from the external environment and different kind of overall social order, and see interactions and just how conditioning can affect one from a different perspective. So to me, it's really about kind of stepping away from like the familiar routines and really analyzing, how different patterns play out in your life, right? So it's a very high kind of karmic evolutionary intent. So there can be some resistance, because, like I said, there can be memories of isolation, and there can be fear that going in that direction, this life can lead to that, right? Going towards true individualism can lead to isolation. And it definitely points to the potential, like I said, for having been ostracized. And we look at the South Node ruler Venus, in the sign in Pisces, right? Right on the IC. Very interesting. And it just kind of lends more credence to this idea of this mystic, and it's on the IC, so it's like, it's related to, to the bloodline, and just to where you've come from, and yeah. So I think that there's a big need for alliances with like-minded people, and to just get free of any kind of past kind of conditioning. And it's really important that the groups that you join, friends groups, all that stuff, like to the extent that they support that individualization, they're good. But to the point to where they block that, there's a problem, right? So there can be this like kind of this like alienation that can come up, So, with Pluto, you look at the polarity point, and, in Leo, fifth house, right? Um, and yeah, I mean, it's like opposite Chiron, close. Yeah, and it's like you can make the argument, if you use large orbs for, which I do, that it's opposite, Pluto's opposite the North Node, right? Conjunct the South Node, but just different signs. And it just makes sense, right? Like how that would have really pushed you back. So with Leo, it's just about the need to kind of self-actualize in a creative way, right? And really get into that you know into that true inner self, right? And it's through creativity, through the inner child, through authentic self-expression that you find yourself. So ultimately it's about the individual finding their core individuality within groups. So that takes a lot of discernment when it comes to what energies you allow yourself to be around. Now, when we look at the 29-degree energies, I mean, first of all, like, Neptune rising Scorpio, I mean, does it get more mystical than that? It is like, especially at 29 degrees, right? 29 degrees is obviously it's the last degree, and to have the rising exactly sextiling the sun, there's a lot of culminations happening in this lifetime. And I think with the North Node in Aries, like there's a need to kind of be selfish, right? And when it comes to relationships, a need to kind of look at those, like not just the friendships, but also the relationships, and just think, how much is this allowing me to go towards this energy where I'm really, really in charge of my own life. And Libra sometimes can be a little bit, it doesn't always want to rock the boat, right? So there's like a need to kind of be a little bit selfish when you need to, right? And learning to say no, and learning to understand excuse me, learning to understand, right? Like what's good for that process, and what's not good for it, and how important it is. Because like Chiron on the North Node, opposite the South Node, it just makes me think that like you weren't able to be of service, and you had all the tools and everything needed for it, but that you know whatever circumstances were there just made it difficult, right? um so yeah, like the anoretic degree, um yeah, it's just very, very very karmic, and lots of fate, especially like with the Saturn return. I imagine that was just massive with Capricorn Sun at that point. um but I can't hear my mouth. Ugh. So yeah, I mean, just fate playing like a huge, huge role in your life, right? Um, and how in this lifetime you're trying to kind of get to that point and really just finish off this process to get to the next level. Um, it's very testing, and it's really, I think of it as like, I think 29 degrees is like, it's like about mastery, and I think there's similarities between the nodes and 29 degrees. And I think with fate, different people have different levels of that. I mean, there's fate in everyone's life, but when you have, energy like this, it's just like, it's massive, right? It's playing a huge, huge role. Um, so, lots of transformation, crisis. But yeah, I mean, it's really about kind of going through those so that you can truly serve humanity, right? So, um, when we talk about, the sun, right? Um, it is, it can bring up so much. But I think like it does also speak to that kind of like that nodal axis of like, me versus other, right? Um, Potential, father issues, um, and yeah, just like that Libra South Node, like inability to say no, and kind of Saturn based, just like being tested, um, when it comes to how you're able to proceed towards that kind of true individualization, right? Um, so I think like, let me sip my tea. In Capricorn, like social status, um, sixth house North Node is about, putting those past life dreams into action, into the steps that they're needed so that you can serve. Um, but having to get over kind of potential like negative thinking patterns, and just authority figures that might kind of try to bring you down. So with the ascendant, it's similar. Um, but really, you're completing some very important task, that's been started in previous incarnations, and try and take this like major leap forward. Um, so um, of course, it can be volatile, 29-degree energy. And there can be like, yeah, lots of crises. But yeah, it's really because it's pushing you to progress and move to that next level, right? Um, So like I always think of it as like the highest manifestation of that energy, right? And that planet. And I think that with Capricorn, it's all about honor, right? And it's all about um, truly doing things for the greater good and serving. And I always think of MLK for some reason. So yeah, like it can bring up these crises, but it's all about you mastering that energy so that you can later, be the teacher. Um, and yeah, like I mean, in ancient astrology, like the highest planets are looked at as the ones are the wisest, right? Where there's the most experience. So to have ascendant Scorpio, like wow, like and then Sun, 29 ascendant, 29 Sun, it's just like I feel like a lot has been mastered, and at this point, it's just about taking all of these things I'm seeing in your chart and tying them together. Um, of course, like Neptune rising creates a very spiritual person, right? Who will see the world in a different from a different viewpoint than others. Very, very, in the in the imagination, imaginary, the realm of intuition, imagination. And it's kind of like one foot in the physical world, one foot in the spiritual world. So it's like a need to kind of balance that out. Um, it can be difficult and confusing, especially when young, because it can lead to some kind of self-esteem issues and kind of just issues around identity, all that stuff, right? And then also, of course, because it's Neptune, people can project on you a lot. So, it's not always easy. And it can make someone just really want to kind of be invisible and disappear at times and really want to kind of return to this like dream realm. But then the Capricorn is like, oh, hell no. Like, so, you know, it could be like having felt like your personal space was invaded early on, perhaps like a nagging parent, and there can be just this like sensory kind of overload, just feeling so much, and it's like and I see that a lot with healers, right? It's like, how do you deal with that, right? um so yeah, there's really that need to kind of yeah, like kind of learn that spiritual protection, how to kind of filter out those more negative energies. And of course, with age and everything gets easier and you start to harness those psychic abilities and that strong intuition. um but yeah, like it can really make one very, very fascinated by the esoteric, and it can make one really want to take their dream world and implement it into their everyday life, right? Into their personality, into their identity, right? So once again, really important who you keep around and what environments you're in. Now, of course, also, in Placidus, you'd have Mars in the 12th, right? Um, Mars in Scorpio, and then all this would shift to like the 11th, like the nodes. But the point is that either way, there's that same ostrich, I can't even say it, you know, ostrich, ostracization. I just said it, but you know, the potential for being ostracized either way. Um, Mars obviously in Scorpio is just like, you know, like it's with your part of fortune, so it is you as that spiritual warrior, you know, it's you as that that person, that strong-willed, like I always say, like Mars in Scorpio people can never be held down. Like they just get back up. And I always say that um, you know, of course you do have more Scorpio, but I've met people who just have the Scorpio Mars and it like dominates their chart because it's such a strong placement and it's dignity, right? Um, so yeah, lots of intensity and just not the person you want as your enemy, that's for sure. And if you look at the Plastis, where it would be Plastis, of course it can create hidden enemies. Um, but there's always this real magnetic kind of charisma, and with the Scorpio rising too, um, just an energy that people feel and they sense when you walk in a room. Um, and then with Neptune, it can make it very hard for people to read you, which is why that projection can happen. So it's why it's so important for you. You know, Aries North Node is also about truly understanding who you are and what sets you apart, right? So, um, like, and just being able to define all that. So that's very, very important. Um, so yeah, there's like a lot of willpower, a lot of strength. And you know, obviously we all know Mars and Scorpio is that raw sex drive, and usually they it's not that hard for them to attract. Um, but the fact that it's with your part of fortune is to me showing that, you know, whether you want to put in the first or the 12th, um, that by, you know, the highest energy of Scorpio, Mars, you know, that is you at your best, which to me is like the healer, the spiritual warrior, the person who stands up for what they believe in, the person who goes deep into the esoteric, the person who is able to surrender and you know, go into these kind of death, rebirth, transformation modes. And with all the 29 degrees, it makes sense, right? Um, so yeah, it's just definitely romantically like wanting someone who's, you know, kind of has like a certain power and a certain, you know, like many layers to them, and lots of depth, maybe some mystery, and yeah, you know, like it's strong yet soft, that energy. That's what I've seen, right? But you mess with it, it's not good. And they don't forget. Um, so yeah, just being able to like understand your to have that really good relationship with power is very important. Um, and you know, if there was a situation, whether it's a parent or whatever it may be early on, that try, kind of disempowered you in a sense. And you have 29-degree, wow, Chiron also. So yeah, if that existed, it's about being able to kind of, not hold on to that, not hold on to the resentment, and to to just keep evolving, like continual spiritual evolving, evolving evolution. So of course the chart is ruled by Pluto, so makes that Pluto even more big. And when I see Pluto 11th, I'm like, okay, you could say 10th, in Placidus, but like, it's just like speaking to like how, someone who's really meant to be a leader, and someone who in the 11th, they, it could be later in life that their greatest goals come to fruition, and everything, to that point is kind of like a build up. So yeah. Hmm. Um, so then, having I mean, of course, having Chiron on in Pisces, but like on the, you know, on the North Node, there's some deep pain there, um, around, it'd be in the fifth house. Interesting. Um, but I think that, the wound could be around faith, which could come from the past lives of having been shut down in that sense, Um, and um, so it's a really interesting placement, actually. I don't see it so much even. But like, with Saturn being in the sixth, like, so same sign as the North Node, like, it's like, really, really like wanting to be, one with the universe, but also a part of you feeling like you can't, something pulling you back, right? So, many people who have this that I speak to, and we have the follow up and whatnot, there's like this feeling of loss of trust in the universe, not believing in that oneness, um, potentially like deep fears, that are like very hidden. Um, and I also think of betrayal, right? Um, and how also like, victimization, feeling like that. Um, and the idea that, kind of like that, that you're dealt a difficult hand, and yeah, so it's just like about like how to regain that faith in the universe, that faith in God. And of course Pisces, is the sign of the healer, it's the last sign, it's very karmic. So 29 degrees, there's going to be even more fate around you in the conjunction North Node, being this amazing healer, right? And expressing all these energies. Um, And I think also it could speak to like this rejection. Yeah, this rejection, this karmic rejection opposite the South Node for different beliefs that you had. And at some point one just can give up, and just give in to the conditioning. Chiron also Pisces, I think there's like this deep feeling of like being in tune with the suffering of the universe. And a lot of people, can feel really, really stuck in their own suffering. So around 50 is the Chiron, blah, blah, blah. What am I saying? Because you were in, yeah, so you went through the Chiron return, because now it's in Aries. So that, would have been like a big time, a big time turning point for you. But yeah, overall, Chiron in the fifth house, I think with Venus, it's like it's speaking to, being able to find fun within spirituality and within healing, right? The Venus there is interesting. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, like there's just lots of destiny linked to that. So and I think Chiron the fifth is, related to not feeling like you could truly express that inner child. And of course it would be in the fourth in Placidus, but it would be similar, right? Just feeling pain in the childhood. But then with Venus around the IC, that's a very, very good placement for the childhood. So it's kind of like, you know, hard to pin down. But there's so much of a potential for like this creative outlet. Um, but I think one of the dangers, with the Libra, Mika, stop. Um, with this energy, right? There's so much like with the Venus in the fifth in Pisces, it's like there is that ability to just have a creative outlet and just fully just completely lose yourself in it, right? And that can ultimately help um the chironic healing. But like ultimately the fact that the North Node is in Aries and the Chiron is 29 degrees Pisces, to me it's like how can those two work together, right? Because that North Node in Aries is asking you, like I said, to be fiery, to be assertive, to not give in, to be independent, to reject relationships that um you know aren't aren't giving you this independence, right? That aren't giving you this ability to be yourself, fully unhinged, right? So yeah, it's interesting. But I think also, when we look at the moon conjunct, I mean, there's just so many, like, for example, like having Uranus and Jupiter in the 12th. I mean, like Jupiter in the 12th is going to give you a level of spiritual protection, right? Also, on the South Node, it's, you know, there's lots of very, you know, lots of gifts that you channel through that Moon Mercury conjunction, which is very, very psychic, right? They're coming from the past lives. And I think that, you know, with you know, being an Aquarius moon, there's this big need to, and with Mercury on it, it's almost like you could have the ability to channel energy, you know, to be like a channel. I don't see that many moon conjunct Mercuries, to be honest. But a 29-degree Pisces Chiron is just, it's like the fate of the healer is just 1,000 out of 1,000, you know? And it just comes down to just being able to trust in your ability to do these things. And you don't have like, and yeah, like I said, you know, Pluto 24, um, if we're saying that's like conjunct South Node, then, you know, there's that traumatic piece, right? And, you know, really being able to kind of get in touch with what that energy, how that energy has been mimicked in this life, and then realizing, okay, well, that energy is coming from past lives. So what can I do about it, right? That's massive. But back to what I was saying before, you know, well, actually, before that, you know, just with you know, with the whole relationship theme, you know, Libra, um, like, you know, a big lesson also in this life is around boundaries, right? As I've been kind of alluding to. And also just accepting, I don't want to call it the inner weirdness, but, you know, just the inner individualism that is like, you know, an Aquarius moon will have. Um, and also, you know, moon and air, right? In an air sign, it can make someone a little bit aloof emotionally. And they can sometimes, as you know, like create like a distance from their emotions and intellectualize their emotions, not trust their emotions, which, you know, it's a great thing for leadership. It's a great thing for being able to be objective and all that. But there's also a need, you know, like there's a huge need, you know, for an Aquarius moon for freedom, right? Um, but the cool thing is that with Mercury, it unites thoughts and feelings, right? So um, it typically makes it easier for someone to be more open about how they feel. Um, but when it can really, you know, get very intense, like that Scorpio energy, uh, into the things that you really care about and you really find interesting. But then when it comes to things that are kind of like whatever, it's very hard for you to, you know, become impassioned by, you know, to do those things, right? Um, so, you know, um, I think that anything where you're able to, um, you know, express like it's really good for writing also, because like, you know, you're able to like express like your moon sign through your communication, through your speech and so forth. Um, but, you know, generally it's very good for social skills. So, yeah. And I would add, of course, like being Uranus, that yeah, it can give you like a direct channel, um I would say that if I had a list of like most psychic placements, I'd say Moon in Aquarius conjunct Mercury in Aquarius. And then also having Mercury in Aquarius, um, you think outside the box, you have this way of really being ahead of your time. And I just feel like you're like the wise one, like you're the one that knows, right? Um, so there's that idea of having to really trust yourself and to really know that the path that you're headed on is not there might not be a model for you in this life, in your family, right? um it's really very much energy like blazing your own trail. So um mm, yeah, but I would just say, like, when it comes to relationships, like, Venus and Pisces, very, very romantic, but sometimes there can be that, them rose colored glasses, right? No, there's no difficult aspects. Um, it's on your IC, so it opposes the midheaven, and it's not. Is it doing? Let me see. Yeah. So it's not making. But yeah, there's just like this big need to like um not see someone up, just for their potential and what they could be. There's this big need to see them for what who for who they really are at that current time, right? That's the important thing. And the fact that it's opposite the midheaven, it's a good thing for like having grown up in like a peaceful home, and usually it's good for having developed like a healthy self-image early on, right? So yeah, it's curious how these energies kind of um clash in a sense. Um, because like I was making my list of best Venus placements. Obviously, it's completely subjective, and you have to know about the aspects and blah blah blah. Best signs to have it in, but like Pisces, like it's just like so romantic. Um, but then like, I could tell you a story of my former best friend who became a Jehovah's Witness because his wife completely brainwashed him, and he had an Aquarius moon. He had, Venus and Pisces. So, like, it's not, it's a good placement, but you also just really have to watch out, who you entertain. Um, but yeah, lots of like artistic kind of inherited kind of like artistic talents. Maybe like the early home environment was kind of pushing you in that direction, perhaps. Like, which if that's true, I'm jealous. Um, but just like with all the energy, it's like, um, you know, Libra, like that would be like the big thing, right? It would be how kind of how to overcome disillusionment in relationships, right? How to see people for who they really are, how to, especially with the Neptune rising, it's like, just people like it's just like there's a need to take things slow, but you do have a very strong Saturn. I have mine in the sixth house also. But yeah, it'd be in the fifth house in Placidus, but that is not how I do my thing. It's funny because like for my Saturn, it makes sense in both, right? Um, but in the sixth, it definitely gives like that organization. But like even if we think about your nodes, right? If we said, okay, let's talk 11th house and fifth house, it's like that's still speaking to like the need to be selfish, that the need to go towards authentic self-expression and away from groupthink, away from potentially codependent relationships and to really be your own person, through whatever explorations, right? Creative explorations. Um, hmm, second. Hmm, I'm looking for something. So another thing about like just all these anoretic degrees, I think that um yeah, there can definitely be like a misunderstood aspect to it too, which goes along with kind of what I've been saying. So there's just like a lot in your chart that like is just pushing one to just be like, fuck it. Like people aren't gonna like get me. I mean, some will, but like I just need to do me, you know? Because at the end of the day, one can spend their whole life trying to justify why they're doing what they're doing, why they are the way they are. Um, and you know, people are gonna have their opinions, right? So yeah, I think there's just a lot of like with the analytic degrees, it's like it could be very high or very low, right? Um, so with Scorpio, yeah, there can just be a ton of intensity, right? And just lots of fate that kind of challenges one as like as they're growing up and whatnot, and tests their endurance. So I think that it could it could make someone feel like jealous of you, in the sense that like there's such a presence, right? There's such a presence with uh hold on. but yeah, I mean, it's just the ultimate test, you know, and as an advanced soul, you sign up for it, and the fact that the sun in the sun sextiles the rising, and then the moon is with Mercury. It's like, they're really like those four are complementing each other. And then also the Capricorn sun is sextiling Neptune, right? So, and like that adds just more of that, that creative expression and intuition and spirituality, all those Neptunian things, right? And a sextile, um, it adds all that. So let me flip back my camera or flip it on. Hello. So yeah. But then like I haven't even talked about like, having the sun in the third. Um, you know, and of course, um, it would be in the second, right? It would be yeah. So, yeah, it'd be the second in classes. But yeah, like the way I see that is just finding your voice, finding your true authentic voice being so important, and just lots of karmic tests around that. Um, hold on. I'm gonna get a special appearance from Haley because I wanted to ask her about something about your chart. So very lucky. I'm gonna put this on pause. Okay, Haley's gonna say something really quickly. It's actually interesting because I was saying a lot of the same things that here she is for a second.
Hello, hello. My name is Haley, and I just wanted to take a look at your astrology chart and say what I see because you have a very, very special chart. Uh, Lots of 29-degree placements. It's super special. It's the last degree of the zodiac, which means when you incarnated, all the energy was very, very progressed in the collective when you came in. And this is a mastery placement. You're completing a consciousness in this lifetime in regards to who you are, because I feel like in previous lifetime and probably the last lifetime before this one, you had to sacrifice who you were in the name of justice. Souls, our past lives can be absolutely insane depending on when you're incarnated, where you're incarnated, the situations. And I always tell people to be like so kind with yourself because our souls aren't always put in the best positions to make the best decisions, but we always try to do our best. And I really feel like you are that. Like, I feel like you did your best with what you were given, and this lifetime for you is kind of like karmic justice. Like, do you really feel like you've been guided this time by a higher power, or just if you are somebody who's just kind of been proven that things happen for a reason and things of that nature, I definitely feel that in your chart. And I think with your rising and your descendant at 29 degrees, not only is everything in relation to the direction in life where you're headed could be very faded, you could also attract a lot of attention. Jesse's like, Jesse's so excited about this reading. He's like all like smile to his ears, but you are just so meant to just unapologetically be who you are, go after what you want. You are a force to be reckoned with. You have such a powerful Mars, which is who we are, and Scorpio. Like you, and you're gifted. Yeah, you're so gifted, and you'll receive more prosperity, and you'll attract everyone you're meant to when you just naturally express who you are. Even if it, don't be afraid to like show up, be a lot, like take up space.
Great.
And yeah, you know, if there's any insecurity around like fire, it's like it just illuminates. Like it doesn't, there's this like indigo part of fire that's like so deep within, and it comes from a place of like pure potential. And I feel like, yeah, like you're really protected too. Like I would definitely say the people who are in your life, the soulmates that you come across, they're probably people who stuck by you in that possibly like, I don't want to say difficult previous lifetime, but there was definitely some things that your soul like felt like was heavy on the heart. I feel like, but you did an amazing job, honestly. Like any any time that you can anchor yourself into reality too, like into into your like immediate environment, like yeah, like you have inherent gifts with channeling, and like you feel energies, and I feel like and able to reach your fullest potential, you have a lot of energy to put into reality. So like make your dream reality and know that it's going to heal you 10 times over every time. So yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, so special guest. That was very interesting. Haley's really expert with when it comes to um, the degrees and I just want, it's such an interesting chart. I wanted to see her take on it, right? And it's interesting that because she was looking at different things than I was looking at to come to like a very similar conclusion. That's kind of trippy to me because she did not hear anything I was saying. I literally texted her. I was like, hey, like there's like so many 29 degrees. Like, you want me to come up? I was like, yeah. But literally like I paused it and I was like she said the thing about, finding your voice. I was like, I literally like just said that right before I pressed record, like what the fuck? And then everything she was saying, yeah, it was just great. That was just wow, like really, really interesting. Um, just shows, and you know, just how like one thing she said before she recorded or before I hit record was like how, and she I think she did speak to it also, is like how like there she used the metaphor of like highways, right? Like there's for many people there's like lots of different highways, but for like that 29-degree axis there's like it's very very it's very faded, but there's like as I was kind of pointing to, and she added like the part of about like that I didn't even think about with Libra about being about justice, right? Because that actually makes sense too. Like someone who fought so much for justice and like the energy, like just the energy, right? Like just even me just like looking at the chart and just feeling it, the energy I get, which Haley just like came in and said and really really kind of said similar things. Um, is around someone who has been held back and who had to sacrifice so much. And this life, it's like, your time to go, your time to be that person. But then with the Chiron in the North Node, there's that fear to step into that, right? That fear to step in to that fire, right? That fear to step that can be from that Pisces, Chiron. And I think with the fifth house, whether you want to call in classes with fourth or fifth in whole science, like, it could be, go, the like fourth house would be like the deeper spiritual relationship you have with yourself and with your past karmic and in this lifetime. But then also in the fifth, I think about, that that polarity point of Pluto, like the that exploration and that inner child and that playfulness, you know, and that just being something that can be such an asset. So that's just fascinating to me. So yeah, and then also like I definitely also think like yeah, just like there could be like potential for, you know, with the moon square the, you know, with your, so the moon is ruled by Uranus just on the south node, right? And the moon is square Mars. So I think that there could be some repressed karmic anger that can just kind of come out. And you know, it just needs to get channeled into something that you really care about, right? Um, so yeah, like with Moon Square Mars, like yeah, it just, there's like something that it needs to be channeled into. Um, but yeah, overall, like it's just like it's one of the more special charts I've done because it's just like there's there's such a shape and there's such a reward, and the third house sun is just so much like it's your time to be the authority, right? Of Capricorn, the authority, and to really, really, really speak your truth, you know, and to really to do it unapologetically. Speak your truth unapologetically. And when we look at, you know, Black Moon Lilith in the eighth house, that's also, you know, but you know, you have Jupiter in the 12th, so you are very protected. But you do also have to, you know, make the efforts, you know, to protect yourself as well. And of course, the Black Moon Lilith would be in the seventh house in classes, but like um whenever I see a 12th house Jupiter, I'm like, that's, I have that also. It's like spiritual protection, you know, from the path, the current path. I definitely think you have good karma, because I think you did the right thing, you know. That's what I get. And I think you're meant to be a leader, and it's just something you need to step into fully. What, and by the way, like I make sure to not remember anything about my clients before I do the readings. Like all like I don't know what you look like. I just remember that you're an astrologer. I don't check profile photos. I don't look at anything before. I know that obviously like I try to just like give the reading in a way where it's like if you're 25, 30, 35, 40, like whatever, like I'm giving it to you the same way, you know? Um, but that was really cool. I swear, like when Haley was speaking, I was like, yo, like I literally like said, like that was like the same stuff I was saying, but in different ways. It's just crazy. So it's like double validation. Um, so yeah, like there's not many aspects, but like, or difficult aspects, right? So that's another, you know, big like signifier of good karma, and like the path being more cleared for you, at least especially after the Saturn return, you know, to have that in the sixth gives you that organization and the ability to actually help that north node, right? Which, you know, sixth house north node is really like your your daily routine, how you take care of yourself, your health, spiritual, mental, physical, all that. You as a healer, you giving service, like that has like a really massive like that is huge. And it's just like these things that you had in the past that you just weren't able to do, now you're able to do them. And that is like what's beautiful, right? Um so yeah, I think the Saturn the sixth, it's one of the better places to have your Saturn because um it can just give you like this amazing determination, you know. You have to watch out for perfectionism, and on like a health level you have to watch out for not overworking, right? Because overworking as a Capricorn, you know, it can happen, right? And your moon in Aquarius, like yeah, there's just such that need for freedom, but it's fixed air, so when you get into something you can really really get into it. Now the fact that, you know, so yeah, there's just really, really a need to kind of like, yeah, really reap the benefits of the past. That's how I feel, you know? Um, and like the thing about Placidus and whole sign is that like the beauty of it is that regardless, it says the same thing in a different way. Because like, you know, you're like the like regardless, you'd have your moon in the third house in Placidus, you know? So yeah, it's very interesting. I would assume you would. Um, but yeah, like I mean, even like series in in the third in Cap, um, just the idea of self-discipline and just just going after what you want and really feeling nurtured by achieving your goals, right? And being able to also like third house, like being very good at like praising others. So also I think like about like networking and just being able to like what you are such a deep person, but then also being able, like I said, one foot in the spiritual world, one foot in the physical, right? So yeah, it's all very interesting. And I think that, the fifth house is a key house for you. Play, fun, lightheartedness, um, you know, is how so much gets learned and so much gets integrated. Um, kombucha, kombucha, kombucha. Um, mhm, mhm, mhm. The sun is really well aspected. It's got that nice trine with Uranus, sextile, as I mentioned, with Neptune, trine with Pluto, sextile with Chiron. So like literally it's all there, it's literally all there. All of every single like outer planet besides Saturn is well aspected by the sun. And then you have Jupiter also trining it. Like that's crazy. Sunshine Jupiter is a gift. It makes someone very generous, very popular. It gives lots of luck. Um, Luck doesn't exist. Lots of opportunity, especially when you're so it's like, the path may be difficult, but then there's such good aspects that I think that like that would ease it in a sense, right? That would ease some of the difficulties that, might come from that. And uh with Uranus trying the sun, I mean, once again, speak of psychic, right? And speak of like ahead of your time and inventive, and just like someone who is not afraid to be their individual self. So yeah, and it's a trine, so it's something that isn't like necessarily pushed away by other people in that sense, right? Um, and with Neptune, of course, like just that, like I already mentioned that, like the artistic and intuitive opportunities and just like that being a big part of your personality. And then Pluto just gives you like strong leadership abilities with the trine of Sun and Pluto, and you're Capricorn 29 degrees already. You are the authority, you are the boss. It's about stepping into that Aries North node. You see what I'm saying? Stepping into that fully. And I want to ask you, whether you feel like you've done that fully or not, because with the Chiron on the north, that's a really tough ask. 29-degree Chiron in Pisces, literally the last degree of the zodiac. It's like it's difficult, and there can be tons of fears from the past lives of the things I spoke about at the start. So it's all very, very compelling. And yeah, there's lack of fire, but when you have some Pluto, that can really, you know, help make up for some of it. And then the very exact sextile of Chiron and Sun. I mean, what do you expect? You're meant to be a healer. Like just natural ability to like listen to other people, to put people at ease. Just it's who you're meant, what you're meant to be, right? And yeah, so Yeah, I mean, I just think that like with that 11th house Pluto, I think that you have this extra gear. I don't know where you're at in your journey, right? But I know that whenever I see 11th house, and of course in classes there would be even more 11th house, like that is later in life that those tend to kind of manifest. So yeah. So then Black Moon Lilith, eighth house in Gem, right? So here we have you know, um, Black Moon Lilith is kind of like it's how you kind of potentially screw yourself over, right? Um, and not self-limiting, but it's like how you can be your own worst enemy, and then how we can take it and turn it into something great. And it's Gemini eighth house Scorpio Gemini. So it's like I would think that it would be linked to um just like attracting kind of like the darker elements of society, whether it's people, the wrong types. And I kind of was speaking about that earlier, into your life, right? So, and then these people kind of force you to face kind of the darker sides of reality, your own reality, and the reality in general, right? Um, so yeah, it's like seeing those as like opportunities to like face your own kind of depths, right? And Gemini, you know, I think that there's a real potential for like having this psychic power. And of course, this would be like, this would be like what, seventh house of classes. So this could be linked to like relationships, very linked to relationships. Um, and Gemini, of course, a lower energy of Gemini can be trying too much, being too scattered, right? Um, some people who have that, I've noticed, like they have issues with like listening, um, and they'll just like talk too much. But like I just mentioned, how you have that real ability to really tune in, and you're a Scorpio rising, so it's like, that's probably offsetting a lot of that. But yeah, it's just about like really, really, really kind of that like the energetic balance of like of giving and taking, and having that balance, right? Um, so yeah. And also eighth house eighth house Gemini, just like not using, your talents with words, and with like just like advanced understanding, um, in a way that's like, gossiping, or just any of the low Gemini stuff, right? So, um, yeah, and then I think also Chiron and Pisces, there's difficulty like gaining your own sense of individuality. Um, so like I think one of the challenges with a chart would be like, you know, like with so many healers, would be how can I like people who feel things so intensely, it's like how can they detach from it, right? Um, and yeah. So yeah, like with love, like I said, definitely very, very deep kind of romantic energy. Watching out for the energy vampires. The person has to align with everything we talked about, your life goals. The Aquarius moon person needs a ton of space, ton of freedom to be themselves. They can't feel held down at all. Um, and they tend to not like people who are like overly like emotional, and also they need that fun person, right? They need that person that's fun and that can communicate and have like a real deep intellectual connection with them, right? So, but like, your descendants 29 degrees, so there's so much fate in your love life, right? Um, so yeah. And I think Vesta conjunct Saturn is just like one of the best combinations for being someone who's a leader, and who can build a team of people. Um, and I mean, like they're connected to each other, those two, right? So you have to be really, really committed to what you're doing, really love what it is, but just a very good worker, right? And good at being able to like work with other people, and very good for achievement. Um, Especially in Aries, the sign of the leader. So I think that really helps out your North Node journey of of moving towards that kind of responsible energy, um and kind of letting go of like that escapism potential, and that potential of not you know putting your gifts into motion, right? So also another thing with like the South Node of Libra is that yeah, that potential for being indecisive, and then when you're indecisive, allowing other people to kind of decide things for you. So it's really about, yeah, self-empowerment, right? And not always considering the needs of others first because you're such an empath, right? So yeah. And I think that I think that you know, hmm. So Vertex and Cancer, I feel like that would make it so like, it's related to the moon. So you like when it comes to like the public, um, you can really, really be well seen, and well loved, right? If you do something that's like something like what I'm doing, for example, right? Um, but yeah, the doorway to higher awareness can be through, once again, that kind of deeper emotional, spiritual relationship with yourself, right? Um, but then not shutting down, not being too closed down, because that's the South Node energy, So you're being asked to kind of step out from that, right? Um, Also give you like a connection to like water, So it's like being next to water is very good if you live in New York. So yeah, that's like really, really good. And like also Cancer is about family. So there's lots of destiny related to your family, and potentially being the one that, and I say this in so many readings, but like um, you know, strongly like affects like the spiritual development of the family, and kind of closes potentially like something in the karma of the family, right? Like a trend of some sort. At the game, I'm just like peering up at times. Philadelphia, Boston. But yeah, I mean, just like that part of fortune, like right on the Mars, just like transformation, and like I said before, and just also like how you're able to like inspire courage in other people through what you've done yourself, and to your own independence, right? Like your own drive to get there. Um, so yeah, that spiritual relationship with yourself is so important. Um, what a chart. Then you have Pallas and Juno both in Sag. So Pallas and Sag, I love that placement because Pallas is like the third eye, kind of. It's like, you know, um, so your Mercury's already in like the genius. So you have the sextile of Pallas and Mercury, so you're able to really, um, bring together. Well, Mercury is just the brain, the mind. um Palace is like the third eye, but also it's like, I think of it as like the chess player, like like how you kind of like plan ahead and strategize, right? So with that sextile, you can really, um it's really, you're very good at like forming ideas out of the blue with the Aquarius energy, but then also strategies, um especially when it comes to like helping, you know advocate for other people, right? Um, so you could be someone who's like a spokesperson, messenger of some sort for some issue, for whatever you really care about. A teacher, right? Um, and like anything like related to, like, for example, like freedom of expression, any kind of new idea, any cause you really care about, you can really, really speak on that. And House, second house, you're very good with handling money, right? I mean, Venus, or yeah, Venus and Pisces, like, I mean, you probably like to spend on like spiritual stuff, on, readings and crystals and you know, things of that nature. But like like art, I don't know, right? But there's no hard aspects to it. And also, oh yeah, the fifth house is interesting because it's about children. So Venus there with Chiron, you know, um, you could be, that could be very, very good for children, but also, with a Chiron, there could be some pain there. But it could also be like a very healing relationship with the children. And yeah, I was talking about palace, wasn't it? Yeah. So yeah, just like being really good at like getting money through like very creative ideas. Um and Palace and Sag just gives you the ability to just see the big picture, so very, yeah, very like a defender of truth, like very philosophical. And then Juno, speaking of love and Sag, right on my moon. Your ideal mate is someone who where you have like that common belief system. Maybe they're from a different culture, um, where you can like be it's like your adventure partner, right? So yeah. And then also just like the need for security, whether it's like financial, emotional, just like having like a really, really secure partnership that's also based on fun. And of course in Venus in Pisces, just deep romance and spiritual connection. And I get asked a lot, does that mean that you need to have someone who is, spiritual as your partner? No, but at least someone who's not cutting you off from that, right? And who respects it. So, who gives you that freedom and that space, like, I don't know if you read my article about the Aquarian relationship, but that would make sense to an Aquarius moon, right? So the team I want is winning, just so you know. Yeah, and then best of six, just like, yeah, like lots of commitment towards serving others, and healing, and yeah, um just, yeah, very good for achieving personal success and being very, very like kind of self-reliant. So it's good for entrepreneurship. And then having a Mercury ruled midheaven, I think that gives potential for changeability or immutable. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did I just say mutable? Yeah, mutable, like mercurial and mutable midheaven gives you that ability to change careers, or have multiple. So very interesting. And then Uranus in the 12th by itself is just so fucking psychic, like just getting these like through your dreams, meditations, just these like inspirational flashes out of nowhere, Um, so yeah, just being able to like get towards the bottom of the human psyche and your understanding of it very deeply. And of course, with Jupiter there, it's just like, someone who seeks kind of like the deeper side of reality, meaning of life from deep within themselves, and that they have all the answers within them. They're very spiritually protected. And during like the most difficult times, they can dig deep and they can find this light, right? And then I always think of it as like a flashlight, like an eighth or 12th Jupiter, like when it comes like the esoteric and these spiritual topics that that a lot of people are afraid of. You have this like flashlight to be able to like see and to be able to understand it better, right? So it's really a great placement. And it gives you, like I said, spiritual protection. So how about that? Um, I just imagine like your home, like a deep connection to the mother, most likely. I would imagine like maybe she was what I don't know, like you know, a little bit like unpredictable, but maybe just like very different, potentially distant. But with Mercury there, I don't know. I just maybe someone who could communicate, you're able to communicate a lot with, or you know, I don't know if she's living still or not. I have no idea. But like yeah. So yeah, but it's cool because like I usually have to like go super deep in like all these hard aspects, but you literally have none. I mean like, well, yeah. Mm, so yeah, I mean also like another thing is just like yeah, just like I talked about earlier, just like the idea of like power dynamics in relationships and control issues in relationships, just that potential. And just also, Lilith square Venus is just very kinky, just what it is. Um, so yeah, and of course, like, Venus trine Mars, there's just lots of sexual energy there, right? Um, but there could be like, a discomfort in like truly expressing that full sexual nature. Um, so yeah, could be work around that. Um, Also like Venus trine Mars, I feel like it like there's like lots of loyalty that comes from that. Where you can like really like balance like intimacy. So this is actually really, really good for like these two things I'm seeing in your chart because like the romance, like the when it comes to romance, it's really bringing them together where you can like balance that intimacy with independence. But also one thing with Venus trine Mars is you have to like watch out for not taking um creative talents for granted, right? Because that's a big potential. So let's check this out. I know it's alpaca. Yep. Hold on 1 second. Okay. So as I was saying, let's take a look. Okay. So, no conjunction. Okay, so you have asteroid Lilith on your moon. That is very interesting. Um, that is very linked to feminism. I always think of it as the energy of the woman who's not down to put up with the patriarchy, like a very, very strong-willed woman. So that's interesting. And it's with Mercury too. So it also, can create someone who's fearless in their communications. So let's see. Then Eros is also there on the moon. So that kind of gives like a very sensual quality to the person. That makes, like, I've said this several times, and just kind of another, um signature where people will feel like very drawn to you. It can bring lots of sex appeal, really draw a lot of people in. Um, and also really, really good for artists, models, anything that deals you know, with, sex, intimacy, the arts. Um, so yeah, very, very, very passionate. Um, and yeah, it really makes like sex and emotions like very like intertwined, which is very Pisces Venus. And really, like, needing that intimacy to feel safe. Um, and like it just makes, breakups very difficult, and every relationship has a deep component, even as an aqua moon. Um, let's stare into this. You saw what I was looking at. You understand. Just like so many fixed stars and asteroids. Okay. Mhm. Over here we have, yeah, so it's mostly just Alpha. Nothing with sound. Okay, let's pull this up. 15. Okay. Um, so Alphecca as fixed star in your rising is it's very nice. Very nice. I just want to see this list. That's 15. It's not showing me like. The Mazar. So that's a on your midheaven. That's really good for yeah, it's good for wealth. It's good for success. To have that one culminating, also for martial success. Yeah, honor and success. Lots of dealings with and help through women. Success in occupations of a Venus nature. So the arts, astrology is Venus and Saturn. Okay, let's do this. So Alcyone is like Pleiades. Um, yeah, just like very, very fond of the arts. Good for painters. Yeah. Aspect about benefits. Let's see. Yeah, it's trining your sun. Exactly. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, the sun is definitely not a malefic. So, my hotspot just went off for a second because my Wi-Fi sucks up here, or it just doesn't work on my computer, so this is my hotspot. But yeah, I was saying also like if it is aspected by benefics, which it is, very pleasant death. Um, and yeah, just like really good for the arts and whatnot. So um, that's good. And then Alpheka. Alpheka. What is the name that Hessa? There's another nickname for it. But anyways, so Alpheka on the ascendant, is let me see what I can find. A lot, so there's lots of different like sources that talk about it. It says a life spent in various pleasurable pursuits, love, adornment, secretly engaged in love affairs or adultery. That's one taking. Another one is a liking for literature, art and science, artistic talents, and also success in trade and commerce. There's four different takes, so it's an important one. A glorious, a high priest or priestess, a friend of leaders, an energetic body becomes famous and loved by many. And then the last big long one was well known, famous, resourceful, very well learned, fond of philosophical dissertations, eloquent, creative, insightful, ingenious, fond of music and the arts, kind-hearted, agreeable. It's like a really good star. And with a delicate life, happy, sensible, and thoughtful, skillful and fortunate, self-taught, esteemed, Jesus, for reasoning ability, a propensity for what is virtuous, well-spoken and pleasant to talk to, amiable and well-tempered manners. Um, wait, wait, hold up. Why did I say Alpaca Rising? I have made a mistake. I made a mistake. I apologize. Alpheka is on Mars. Um, so you have to delete everything I said about the whole thing I just read. um, like liking for literature part, lifespan various pleasure pursuits. Not that that can't be, and then that long list. And with Mars, it is. Let's see what it says. Active mind, a better writer than speaker. This increases the energy at this point, so that these individuals pick up many negative responses from others. They pick up positive energies also. Um, they they need to know from what direction the negative energies are coming from so they can close it off. If the individual is on a high level, they can control this through their extraordinary psychic abilities. And Joe Rogan and Khloe Kardashian and Martin Scorsese and Joe Biden are the ones that pop up who have it. So yeah, those are the main fixed stars. Of course, you had Neptune on your ascendant. Altair is a little bit too far for in different sign than your sun. So yeah. Yeah. So that is about everything. Just stare at this one more time. Yeah, even your ascendant is making nice aspects to Chiron at Trine. So that's very nice. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed. You got the special little message from Haley. So yeah, and let me see. I didn't look. Oh, reading only. Okay, but yeah, you're an astrologer, so yeah, if you decide that you want to get a follow up, just let me know. I know that you probably know your current astrology and everything like that. So I would tell you, but you're an astrologer, that most people end up doing the follow up mixed with the current astrology. But when you're an astrologer, you know that stuff already. But it's still an option, of course, to give a mass reduction if you might be interested. All right. Thank you. And I pray to God, I have not looked at the time. I pray that I somehow kept this close to 90 minutes. It is such a struggle, but I'm trying my best. And the timer went away, so I have no idea. But if I did, I am so proud. All right. Ciao. Thank you so much for being patient. Bye-bye.